Upstream of India is Tibet, which is the main source of Asia's 10 major river systems. Annexed by China in 1951, Tibet alone supplies water for approximately 20% of the world's population. Earlier, I spoke with Maruf Raza, who is author of Contested Lands, India, China and the Border Dispute, about Beijing's narrative that Tibet has always been part of China since ancient times.
Until 52-54, the Chinese were not in control of Tibet. And when they tried to control Tibet militarily, on many occasions, they got thrashed pretty badly by the Tibetan monks who beat them up and pushed the Chinese army back. Now, this was before China got access to technology, partly because of Chairman Mao's arrangement with the Russians. And that gave him weapon platforms which the Chinese were to exploit initially in the Korean War and then to fly in aircrafts into Tibet, and the Tibetans had never seen aircrafts before. And they took control of Tibet, and through very ruthless measures, they stampeded their way into the Tibetan society. Tibet has had a long cultural tradition of its own of thousands of years. But the Chinese wanted to do away with it because Mao Zedong's desire to create a new Chinese civilization would have nothing to do with old Tibetan traditions. Also, China's claim that Tibet was always a part of China. Well, until the mid-50s, China tried hard to dominate Tibet physically, but they were not successful. In fact, historical records show that on a couple of occasions, Chinese soldiers who were beaten up came down to India in Calcutta, which is now Kolkata, and took ships back to China's eastern coast, which is close to Taiwan, and went back to gather their morale and gather their resources for another fresh attack on Tibet. Tibet was very, very well placed with natural resources. It is the source of much of the rivers in that part of the world. And I believe out of Asia's 9 or 10 major rivers, about 7 come from Tibet. So Tibet is a source of water, it's a source of mineral resources. In fact, when the Shimla conference took place in 1913-14, the Tibetan representative of the Dalai Lama came with reams and reams of evidence that Tibet was independent at its own standing, whereas the Chinese could not provide too much of documentary or historical evidence. So by making loud claims, you don't own a territory. You have to provide historical evidence. And therefore, the entire Tibetan claims are based on China's verbal claims. One of the evidences that are used is who was collecting taxes from whom when, historically. So that again puts China on a weak footing.